Now, yesterday we reacted to Ayanda's resurrection miracle video. We found a lot of inconsistencies, but on this video, I wanted to list out those inconsistencies in details. I'm going to go all the way up to about 9 points that I want to mention. Some of them are very closely related, but they extend a new point when I mention them. Now, I watched Pastor Bay and Dibuchi's video where they were talking about Ayanda's whole testimony and everything. and they were mentioning seeing the video that I made and stuff like that. Now, after hearing that video that Pastor Bay and Dibuchi, I would love to challenge them. It's about time we start challenging each other. I would love to hear your thoughts on this resurrection miracle. I am very, very interested in hearing things. It's the Actuality Show. Speaking to the detective, and we are out here. Point number 1. Ayanda says things that don't make sense in that entire thing. The story that she's telling, it's very, very ridiculous. How far ridiculous? First, she says the person who died and was resurrected is a 4-year-old. Right? And this 4-year-old, they were swimming. The funny part is that later on in that video, she then says that the child, according to the security cam of the estate, was dead for 7 minutes. So this means that this child was in the water for 7 minutes, meaning they didn't have parent supervision when they were swimming. One thing for me, I'll take it as it's just a fake story. Okay, she used this story to get the heat that came on her after the first video, and so she's using this to say, I am called. Point number 2, she and the mother were sitting at the moment when the doctor went trying to resuscitate this particular child who had died. Her and the mother. And my question in the first video was, what mother do you know her child is dying, she'll be just sitting down? Even if she's crying, she's just sitting down. And then the only time the mother responds, it's when she is told that the child is dead. That's when she jumps up, and then supposedly she jumped into the water. Okay, which is another thing we'll talk about later. Okay, so at the moment before she was told the child is dead, the mother was just sitting down with Ayanda. I don't know a parent that would act like that. I don't know a parent that would act like that. If you're a parent that would act like that, you're a terrible person. You're a terrible human being. They haven't told you, we just did. Welcome. Right now, you just went into a room where there's mothers, and you said a child fell. Look at how many mothers will stand up running to the door to make sure that it's not their child. Point number 3, she says that they had a child drown. So she said that they had someone scream. If you have kids around and you heard a scream, the first thing you would do is go to where the scream comes from to check that no child is harmed, no child is in danger, everybody is okay. But according to Ayanda's story, they had a scream and they were shocked and they just stood still. That doesn't sound like parents to me. It's just figures in the story. So supposedly they had a scream, they sat down and they waited until somebody came and told them, a child just died. Going back to point number 2, Ayanda and the mother continue sitting down after hearing a child has just drowned. This is point number 4. God shook the chair, and when she got up, she started moving towards the pool. This particular point, when you listen to it, it also does not make sense. Ayanda's point here, and Ayanda's point here, when I listened to it the second time, you know, I was speechless. So, and the question that came to my mind is, Ayanda, where was the pool to where the kids were? Because Ayanda says the mother and her were sitting down. We were sitting together, we're in the same group. And she says the mother stood up and jumped into the water, right? So which means from the time when the doctor is doing resuscitation of the child, they were in view of the pool. Otherwise, how were they still sitting when the child was being resuscitated? This part didn't really make sense. Unless she said they moved. But there's no way she indicated moving. She says that they were sitting down. And then there's resuscitation. The mother went up and then God shook the chair. She stood up and then she says she started moving towards the pool. So when she said that point, I was like, how far were you guys from the pool? That the child, point number 3, if you remember that, someone told you a child had drowned. But then in this case, when she stood up from the chair, after God shook it according to her, she just moved towards the pool. How far were you guys from the pool that you couldn't see a child who was in the water for 7 minutes? Point number 5, she says the mother was sitting down while the child was dying. Now, the point number 5 that I want to add to this point of the mother sitting down is that she then speaks about the details of resuscitations, right? And she says that the doctor tried to resuscitate the child. And she only talks about chest compressions and stuff like that, right? One thing we know that when a person is drowned, mouth to mouth, blowing air into them and stuff like that. And that's what you will see a lot in these instruction videos. They press, they blow. They press. She only mentioned the chest compressions. I don't know if she just forgot to mention that or what. The thing about that is that how much time does it go between the chest compressions to the time of declaring that the child was no longer there according to Ayanda? And if you look at like the way they do it in instruction videos, they tell you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, and then they blow 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10. So in that period, a minute to 2 minutes might pass. And remember, by this time the mother is still sitting. So for 2 minutes straight, a mother was sitting down without a reaction until she was told the child is dead. So the length of the period of doing the compressions, there is. But anyways, according to Ayanda, this was a trained professional, as she said. I don't know. Not mentioning anything about the mouth to mouth. Maybe she did, maybe she didn't. I didn't hear it. She was taking us to a soccer game. The meeting seemed to have been parents' soccer game. Being it that these are people that are professionals and parents, kids would be, for it to have been an event for kids, it would have meant that there was a lot more attention on the kids. That's the point that I kind of came to my attention with this particular mention, that this was a soccer thing. So the attention was about the kids. So I don't know, maybe it's a thing you guys do, that you would be meeting for the kids and then you just let the kids go. And I don't know. It just doesn't seem likely. I don't see it. I absolutely don't see it. Quite a bit off here, because she says the body, there's a point where she says the body of the child was now stiff, right? She says the body of the child was now stiff by the time when they were doing all these things. Now, maybe she did get time to get close to the child, or according to things, I didn't hear that. Maybe when she was praying for the child, she touched the child, maybe. But she says the child was already stiff 7 minutes into their death. Now, is the 7 minutes enough time for the child's body to already be going thingy? I don't know. I'm not a scientist. I am not a doctor, so I can't speak to that part. But I found that quite interesting that she had those details of the stiffness of or highlighting for us how dead the child was. I find that quite an interesting one. The last point here, it goes back to that CCTV moment that she speaks about, where she says the estate had a footage. So this also does bring back the question of How far away were they from the pool? Someone will say, okay, no, Ricky, they were sitting down next to the pool. They were probably sitting down next to the pool. If they were sitting down next to the pool where the kids are, which is most likely, or where the adults are close to the pool, how did they not see it? It still raises questions either ways. And so that's 7 minutes for me. She has details about things that emphasize on the dying of the child, and then says, no, I didn't raise the kid. But then y'all tell me, are these raising red flags about the story? Is the story made up? Did she forget details? Which version do you guys believe? It's Ricky. I'll see you on the later on. I just wanted to state these particular things. For me, it bothers me. The way the story is laid out does not make sense. If it does make sense to you, you can tell us. I wanted to list them out. At first, when I watched it, I was kind of just reacting on the points as they came up. But the more I thought of it, the more insulted I felt. Maybe it's just me. I was like, are we just done telling the truth now? We're just going to be making up stories. Guys, no. I'm not for that. It's the Rich Reality Show, daily Christian commentary videos. And I'll see you guys on a later on video. Y'all tell me what you think.